Hey everybody, welcome back to Weaponized CAD. I'm your host Danny, and today we are actually going to draw a part. It's a random part I grabbed off the internet. It's a top front right side of a machined part, and really that's all we need to get going. So what I'm going to do in this episode, this is going to be season 2 episode 1 because we're actually producing content now, not discussing commands exclusively, not showing you guys tips and tricks. This is going to be actually drawing an object. And then from this, we're going to build it into a 3D model. And then we'll take that 3D model and we will 3D print it. So we're going to do a number of these. And I actually had a hard time finding something good to draw because some of the parts that were just images on Google they were cut off on the side, so there were a lot of unknown dimensions, and I could have probably faked it in, but I'd rather not do that for you guys. I want you to see what I'm looking at and what we are going to draw. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to erase this to get it out of our way. I'm going to type image, and throughout this I'm going to go through every single command. I could normally draw this about 10 to 20 times faster without having to discuss. So this is not my normal speed. Usually my mouth is closed and my hands are moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So we're in the image menu, external references. Going to click the drop down up here. We're going to click attach image. And I need to remember where the heck I put this image. Let's see, example drawings, I bet. Okay, there it is right there. We're going to select it. It's a JPEG. I'm going to click open. We don't really care about any of this. Insertion or specify on screen, specify on screen. We don't want to rotate it, so we're going to leave that unchecked. Click OK. And I'm just going to make it an arbitrary scale because it doesn't matter. We're not going to trace it. We are going to actually draw this. So now we have a couple options here. We can take this image, slide it over. We can draw here and look at the image here, or we can split our drawing window in half in two different viewports. Let's do that. Type viewports. We've covered all of this stuff before. We're going to cover it end to end, top to bottom in this video. I'm going to go with 2 vertical because it's going to split the screen in half nicely. On this side, I'm going to type Z, right click, W, right click for a zoom window, and I'm going to just window around that. And then on this side, I'm just going to zoom into just a random area down near 0, 0. This is your origin, X, Y, 0, 0. We're looking at the top view. First thing you're going to notice is that this drawing does not give us units. And in this case, we do not care about units. All we need to do is determine what units we're using. So we're going to type units. Architectural, 1/16 of an inch. That's probably fine, but there's decimals over here. We can use decimals within architectural because you can use fractions, you can use decimals, it doesn't matter. I think we actually want to change the type to decimal. It's going to ask us for the precision. We can determine the precision based on these measurements over here. Looks like the most precision we're going to need is 2 decimal places. So we're going to drop the precision down. We're going to change that to hundredths. Insertion scale we don't care about. Decimal degrees we don't care about. International lighting, leave that alone. I never touch that. I'm going to click OK. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to first figure out what we're looking at. This is some type of round machined component. We don't really care what it is. We're just going to draw the top and the right side. So the first thing we want to do is we just want to draw the overall largest part of the shape in the top view, which it looks like the diameter, this is a diameter symbol, is 75 plus or minus 0.5. We're going to ignore the plus or minus. That's a tolerance. We don't really care about that right now. So over here in our left viewport, we're going to type circle, or up in the home tab, you can click the circle button up here. And we don't care where we start drawing. You can start drawing at 0, 0. When it asks you to specify center point for circle, you can actually type 0, 0, and it's going to start your circle right on the origin. Okay, so our diameter is 75. So right now the circle command is going to default to radius. We can either type D for diameter or we can click diameter. We're just going to type 75. And it's going to go way off the screen because we're zoomed way in. So we're just going to mouse wheel back. And I'm going to have to slide that over, which means I'm going to have to pan, middle mouse wheel pan to get that back into place. I'm going to do Z right click, W right click, tighten that up a little bit. Okay, there's our first circle. This is the very outside circle. The inside circle we can see is a diameter of 50. It's this dimension here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to either type circle, which we haven't gotten into editing commands yet. Usually circle for me is CC. It's not going to be CC for you. You'll notice down in the command line I typed CC. It automatically fired the circle command. For this example, for this drawing, I'm going to use my custom commands. You have circle up here, or you can type circle. So now we want this 50 unit diameter circle to use the same center point as this circle. So what do we want to do? We want to type CEN, enter, and there we go. We're going to click on our circle. It's going to give us the center of that circle. We're going to change to diameter, D, enter. We're going to type 50. Okay, now this dimension here, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It's just 0.2. I don't really understand what that means. This is not a US imperial drawing because it's in metric. We're going to work with what we're given. So we're going to see that this dashed line is actually in the dead center of these two circles. So what we want to do is we want to use the distance command, DIST, enter. We're going to type QUA for the quadrant of the circle, which is going to grab the top, the right, the bottom, or the left. So 90, 0, 270, 180. Doesn't matter which one we grab. I'll grab the top one, and then I'm going to type QUA again, and I'm going to grab the quadrant of the larger circle. And it looks like the distance between those two circles is 12.5. So if we divide that by 2, you get 6.25. We're going to use the offset command, which is O enter or offset. Okay, so within the offset command, what did we say the center distance between these two circles is? 6.25. Hit enter. We're going to pick either one of them because it's the center of both of these. So we can either offset this 6.25 down or this 6.25 up. I'm going to select that smaller circle, click inside this area up here. It's going to offset 6.25. We're going to right click to end the offset command. Now what we want to do, because we have a crosshair in here, these are centerline line types, implying the center line of this circle. So what we want to do is we want to just throw a polyline in there, PL, from the center point. We're going to just pull it straight up. And then we're going to window select it, grab that center grip, pull it straight down. Now, we can either draw another line this way and pull it that way, or we can use the rotate command, RO, select our center line. Our base point is the center of this circle. Now down here in the command line, we actually want to copy the original. So we're going to click copy, and then if we pull straight up, it's going to rotate it 90 degrees. And there we go. So now we have our center lines. And you know what? Let's build a layer. LA for the layers. I'm going to click the new button, center line, line type. We need to load line types. I'm going to just click inside of here and I'm going to hit C to kick us down to the C's. Center, click OK. Click center, click OK. Now our center line layer is using the center line type. So we're going to window select our center lines. We're going to change those to center line. Hit escape. And we're going to notice that our line type scale is a little bit off. So let's type LT scale. It's set to 1. PS LT scale, it's also set to 1. So what that means is that this drawing size based on these arbitrary numbers, 50 units, 75 units, is too big to display these line types in a way that we can see them without having to zoom way in. So let's window select those lines, go to our properties, and under the line type scale in the general dropdown, let's change that to 5. There we go. We can see those better now. And that's going to be good enough because we don't actually need the center lines. Those are only for us to work from. So now, what do we have left? We've got these inner circles that we don't actually have dimensions for on this top view, but we have dimensions for them over here. So if we look, the inside circle, and the way that these drawings are drawn is you have to imagine imaginary lines coming out of each of these points. This is the top view. This is if we picked it up, rotated it 90 degrees. So we're looking it down this side of it. So this is the side of it. This inside circle, 20 unit diameter. So let's draw another circle. Circle, I'm gonna pick the center point, CEN. I'm gonna select that circle, D, right click for diameter. We're gonna type 20. Okay, so we have our inside circle. Then it's going to ask us, or it's not gonna ask us anything because we're drawing this from scratch. We need to look at other dimensions that we have over here. So we have this 25 unit dimension, so we need to put that one in. So we can use the offset command to get this 20 unit diameter to 25 unit diameter. But what we have to do is we have to split the diameter in half. So difference between 25 and 20 is 5, but that's 5 in diameter. We need to cut the 5 in half. We can use the offset command, 2.5, half of 5, offset this center circle out. And now if we list this, LS enter, it's going to tell us that the radius is 12.5 times 2 is 25. Okay, so we have this inside circle here. We have this circle here. Now this outer circle is actually the top of this little nub right here. Instead, we're going to put in these 3 equidistant circles with a diameter of 6. So we're going to start with this top circle here, circle again, and we're going to use the intersection snap, INT, because we want to snap to the intersection between this circle and our center line. D for diameter, 6 as the diameter, enter. There we go. Now, if you remember way back to the array command, we can array this circle around. We can either rotate it twice or we can array it. Let's type array. Let's select the circle that we want to array and right click. We want a polar array. We're going to pick the center point of our entire design. And you notice right when I click the center point, it shows us a preview. And when we discussed the array command, we actually used the button up in the ribbon. It does the same thing. The array command is the array command, whether you fire it off based on your own command, and it goes for any command. If you rename all of your commands, you can rename them to nonsense if you want. As long as it's one of the commands that the ribbon triggers, the ribbon will always pop up. So now, up here in the ribbon, right now, we only need 3 circles, and it's giving us 6. If we look at the items, change that to 3, enter, it automatically knows that we probably want them equidistant apart. So it says 360 degrees divided by 3 is 120. So in between each is 120 degrees, and we're asking it to fill 360 degrees. We didn't get super deep into the array command, but this is a good look at how you can use it to rotate an object rotate, copy, 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 copy. And this is all we need. Now we have all three of those little circles, 3 holes, diameter 6, equidistant spacing. We're going to click close array. So at this point, our top view is looking darn close to this top view, with the exception of this weld round here and this top part here. I don't typically work in metric. M30, this is technically M25, that's M30. So that outer circle that my brain didn't catch on to earlier, it's actually telling us right here, M30. So this is 20 here, that's 25, that's 30. So this drawing over here does not exactly look like it was drawn to scale. It might have been squished. For argument's sake, we're going to say this inside hole, this small circle here, diameter of 20. This larger circle is our diameter of 25. We're actually just going to use this M30 and make that a 30 unit diameter circle. So we're going to offset again, 2.5 again. We're going to offset it out. That's probably not correct. I do not work in metric, and when I have to use metric nuts and bolts, my brain is scrambled. I'm in the United States. The metric system, as much as I love it, I still don't understand a lot of the call-outs on metric designs, which is anything designed anywhere outside of the United States. We haven't caught up yet. We have no excuse for ourselves. So we have our 3 large circles, 1, 2, 3. We have our 3 holes, 1, 2, 3. And we have our 3 circles in the middle, 1, 2, 3. So now what we want to do is we want to draw this side profile. So I'm going to mouse wheel back and I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Because this thing is enormous, I'm actually going to move Command, M, Enter. I'm going to move our little drawing over. I'm going to pan and I'm going to pan and find it. Z, right click, W, right click. Get that thing as big as I can. Go back over here. Now, once you have the top done, you can actually just take lines. So if I use the polyline command and I type QUA and I pull that straight out, and then I right click QUA again, pull that straight out. Right click QUA again, pull that straight out. I'm going to do this all the way down, and you could copy these too. We'd use the copy command. Instead, let's use the mirror command. I'm going to grab these 6, right click. It's going to ask me for the first point of the mirror line. I'm going to use the end point of this. I'm going to pull straight out, and it's going to give me the remainder. So now, from these construction lines, we can actually build what we're seeing over here. So we need to start looking at some dimensions here. It looks like they're starting from the back. So all we need to do is just draw an arbitrary line in the back. Let's just draw a line just like that. L, right click, shoot a line back there. That's this back edge. So it looks like our first dimension in is going to be 3 units. So let's O, enter, or O spacebar, 3, enter. Offset that puppy in 3. Then from that original line, we're going to offset at 20. So we can right click, type 20, hit enter, pick our original line, offset 20. Then we need one that's 32. So let's offset again, 32, 32. There's our 32. And then it looks like we need to do a 40 as well. So I'm going to right click again and I'm going to type 40. Now at this point, we don't need our construction lines shooting out to our top view. So we're going to use the trim command, TR, enter, TR, right click, TR, spacebar. We're going to pick this line as our trim edge. We're going to right click, and then we're going to say window select all of those lines. Right click, done. We're going to trim again. We're going to pick this back edge. I'm going to cut all those guys off. I'm going to pick both of these edges, top and the bottom. I'm going to right click. Going to trim those. We're going to trim those. Okay, so now what we have is this cute little Lego block of this design, but it has to be cut out. Okay, so we have enough information within this box to build this minus these little fillet welds here, which we can get to. So let's do this. Let's use our trim command again. We are going to trim using this edge. Now, you have to be very careful when you're trimming things that are crossing through multiple lines. You actually have to pick both of your trim edges. So if we look at this, we want to trim from this point here to this point here. So that means we want to pick this top edge and this bottom edge. Right click, trim that out. Now you're probably saying, Danny, that line is actually there. This is inset. So this inner circle is bored out of this part. So yes, you would see that line, but it would be fainter because it's not in the foreground. It's actually in the background. So we are going to put it back in, but for right now, we just want to get it out of our way because we can always just take a line and snap these two endpoints and put it right back. I'm going to hit escape. So now what we want to do, we want to trim all of these nubs off. So we're going to use the trim command again. I'm going to select that as our cutting edge, and we're just going to window those. Because at this point, we're looking at this inside area. These are center lines of the holes. We can put those in anytime we want. We don't need those in here right now because right now, we don't actually have those center lines. Actually, I think we do have the center line for here because this is very close. That's a little untrustworthy. We'll work that out when the time comes. So right now we have this top piece and we have this open in here, even though there's an edge back here. You know what? Let's just draw that edge back in while we're here. Endpoint, endpoint, done. So that's this area here. Now what we want to do is we want to trim out all this stuff back here because it doesn't exist. So let's use the trim command, TR, and let's just window the top three and the bottom three lines. Because if we look at this, we've got the 20, which is these two lines. We have the 25, which is these two lines. And then we have the 30, which is these two lines, based on this. If I were to use the move command and pull these circles over, they actually run smack into it because we used them to build our construction lines. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. These are, this line here and this line here are actually our center lines of these circles. We're going to worry about that later. It's just going to be as simple as pulling a line off the quadrant, the top and bottom quadrant of these circles to give us the actual cuts. For now, we need to trim again. Trim these off, trim these off. Now this is going to be a little bit more complicated over here. I'm going to click into this viewport and I'm going to zoom in. It looks like there is a 3-unit gap on either side to create this fillet weld or whatever the heck it is. This is probably a machined part, so there's no weld. It's probably running through a CNC lathe where it's just carving these things out. So there wouldn't be a weld there. But a radius like this, I would consider a weld. But it doesn't really matter to us because all we're going to do is use the fillet command. So what we want to do is we want to build this little area here on either side. We already have our 3-unit offset here, but we don't have it over here. So we're going to use the offset command again. We're going to type 3, right click, offset that in. I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. Now, what we can do is we can use our trim command again. I'm going to actually pick the vertical and the horizontal line. I'm going to trim that off. I'm going to trim the vertical. I'm trimming the horizontal. I'm trimming the other horizontal. And I'm right clicking. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to trim that vertical. And I'm going to trim these two horizontals. We actually need to do the same thing on this side. I got a little bit too ambitious. That lets us use the extend command actually. EX, right click, pick this edge here, right click again, extend these two lines in because this needs a thickness here that's thicker than this 20-unit opening. So this 20-unit opening here, is from this point to this point. We still need this fat part on the top and the bottom, which is in here and in here. So we're going to trim again. I'm just going to window select the vertical and horizontal, and I'm going to trim out the outside corners. Okay, so we have our general shape here. So let's use the fillet command. Now, I don't believe it's going to tell us what that fillet radius is. So we're going to have to kind of eyeball it. But what we can do is say, okay, well, if it's 3 units out, that fillet, it's 3 units out, and it might be a 1 unit fillet, but because this is a metric drawing, we're not really worried about it. Let's just get these fillets in here. So we have 4 fillets. I'm gonna hit F, enter, R for radius. Let's say it's 1 unit. I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna click here. Now, when I covered the fillet command, you're gonna remember that it actually extends and trims for us. So what just happened? We lost the bottom fillet, or we lost our vertical line to fill it on the bottom, and we lost our horizontal line to fill it on this corner. So what can we do? We can either mirror this over and then mirror both down, or we can undo. We can use our trim command, trim out this centerpiece. Actually, I need to trim this one too. Do the same thing here. Cut out those centerpieces. Now all 4 of these corners are independent lines. So we have 8 lines total instead of 4. So our fillet command, F, enter, radius 1. I'm gonna pick this one, that one, pick that one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay. This edge here, we don't actually know what the heck that is. This edge that's going through this part, because it's a part that was cut in half. There's something in there that they're not calling out, so we don't really care about it. There's nothing that's actually pointing to it. There's nothing over on the other side here that's indicating what the heck that is, so we're going to ignore it. Now, if we look back over here, this is our dimension extension line going through here. What we actually want to do is we want to use our trim command again. We're just going to window these inside parts, and we're going to cut this center line out. And then we're going to actually take the top and the bottom pieces, and we're going to cut those little stubs off. So now, if we really wanted this to look like this drawing, which is the whole point of this exercise, we need to cut this off and this off. So back to the trim command. I'm going to get real familiar with trim command on this trim again. We're going to use the B hatch. We're going to use K for internal point, or just click. I'm going to pick there. I'm going to pick there. Oh, got ahead of ourselves because we forgot to do this hole that's cut through. Let's erase those hatches and let's get those holes in there. So I'm going to use the polyline command. I'm going to use the quadrant. I'm just going to shoot it like that. Polyline, quadrant again. And then in this case, look at this. These holes, based on this cut, are not going to match. So that's very interesting. When this part was sliced through, this is the only hole that we would see. This would be solid metal down here because of where these holes land. Oh, that's still an array, that's why. I need to explode the array. And then if I draw circle, quadrant, look at where that circle is actually going to be. It's actually in front. So if it's sliced through here, if this part was sliced in half, we wouldn't see this circle at all. It's very interesting to me that they showed this. And I'm starting to question the part that I downloaded. This isn't my fault, other than I didn't actually look at how this was drawn. The way that these holes are shown, this hole here and this hole here, is impossible. Even if you rotated this part, they still wouldn't line up. These holes are implying that there's actually 4 holes drilled that are equidistant apart. So we're actually going to leave this bottom one off because this is wrong. I'm going to erase that. So let's just put this top one in. I'm going to trim this out, trim again, trim that out. This is a center line, so I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to draw another polyline. I'm going to hit the midpoint there, grab the grip. I'm going to use the match properties, which is MA, right click. I'm going to match the properties of our center line over here to this center line and this center line. This center line is not true because of where it was cut. If it was cut along X, this would not show. That's very interesting to me. I don't remember where I got this from, but I'm actually going to have to look up that part because this is drawn incorrectly. We don't care about that right now. I'm erasing this line because we won't see it. Now we're going to hatch. B-hatch. BH, enter, or B-hatch, or you can go up in the ribbon and hatch. What we want to do is we want to put in an angled hatch pattern. I'm just going to click there. I'm going to click there. I'm going to click here. We're going to have to increase the scale. So after I get the 3 hatches in, I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to select the hatches. And what I probably want to do, select ANSI 31 because it's an angled hatch. And then we want to increase the scale. So if you look here in the properties panel of the hatch ribbon, let's crank this up to 5. See how it looks. Zoom in a little bit, hit escape. Nope, 5 isn't good enough. Let's crank it to 10. That's close enough. This looks more like a 30-degree or a 60-degree angle. So if we wanted it to match exactly, if this was for like a school project and your instructor was a super stickler, you would probably want to get that pretty close. So it's a 10-degree rotation off of its 45-degree rotation, which would make it 55. That actually looks closer. You know how you really know? You pull this in behind it, and you actually underlay this image under this, and just fool around with the angle until it looks correct. I don't much care to do that. I would prefer to leave it at 45 because that gets the point across. Okay. So there we go. We can dimension this now. If everybody needs a refresher, we'll dimension this thing right now. It's not like any of you can answer me because this is a YouTube video. This is not Twitch. We're not doing this live. You're not Bill O'Reilly. We are not doing this live. But I will throw a couple dimensions in here. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this part and we're going to build a 3D model from it. So let's look here. They actually have a hidden line back here. That's this edge, which is not technically hidden. Man, I grabbed a terrible part for this episode, but it doesn't matter because we covered a bunch of commands. This is actually drawn incorrectly, which is fine because I don't work for whoever these guys are, and it's metric, so they're probably not even in the US. Doesn't matter to me. For the purpose of this video, we drew our top view, we drew our section view, cut through the X line, which is this line here. We're looking at what you would actually see, unlike what they actually think they see. Let's throw a couple dimensions in here. Now, this drawing does not have any dim styles because, like I said in the previous video, I don't have a template. I'm just going from the hip here. So let's type dim style. Let's modify our annotative dimension style. Change our text. We'll keep it at annotative. We need to actually go and check and make sure that that's set to Arial, which it probably is not. Might be. Lines. We're going to leave all these lines, symbols and arrows. We actually want to change this to a closed filled. Center marks. We don't really need center marks. So I'm going to leave those as none. Break size at 1/8 of an inch is fine. Jog angle of 45 is fine. Fit either text or arrows best fit, over dimension line with leader. Let's just leave that alone too. We're not even going to go crazy with this. Primary units architectural, let's change that to decimal. And we're going to change our precision to 200, hundredths place. And that's it. Let's click OK. Let's click, double click, make sure our current dimension style set to annotative. We're going to close. We're going to type style next. We're going to check our annotative text style. It's already set to Arial. It's already set to annotative. We are good to go. Let's type. You know what? I'm not even going to type anymore. I'm going to use the ribbon commands. Dimension. Let's go to our home tab. In the annotation panel, we're going to click dimension, and let's throw in our radius and diameter dimensions first. So we're just going to literally mouse over the circles and pull it away. And remember what I was saying, I don't know how big or how small these dimensions were going to look. We're not really concerned with that right now. We just need to get some numbers in here. So you're going to notice these dimensions are incredibly small. That's okay. We just need to get them in the drawing. Let's dimension this circle here. Pull that one out. Let's dimension this circle. Pull that out. Dimension this circle. Pull that out. Let's get the overall dimension by typing int. Int again. Pulling this off to the side. That's going to be our overall, which should be 75 if we did this correctly. Yep, good. So we have each of the circle dimensions on the outside and the 3 holes that were drilled. We need to put in dimensions for the inside. Now, this is where basic technical drawing is a fantastic course to take because it teaches you the proper method of dimensioning. It teaches you how to draw, yes. It also teaches you the commands, yes. But it also gives you an idea of where and when you dimension. So you don't have to dimension every single edge, every single circle, every single thing you draw. You just have to dimension enough, like they did over here, so we can draw the part. So let's go over to this side and let's start dimensioning this stuff. Type END again. Pull that out to the side. That should be our 20, which is our 20 here. We need to get our 25 in. Let's put that in. So we're going to go to dimension. We're going to type END. Actually, let's do it on this side so it's not cutting through our part. Pull it off to the side. That should be 25. Oh, no, that's the 30. The 25 is actually this inside guy. So let's do that. We can actually just grab this line because it's a solid line. So we've got our 20, our 25, and our 30. 20, 25, and then 30 to the top. Let's get our 60, which is here. I'm just going to type dim. Put in our 60. Let's get our 3. Now the 3 is going to be tough because we need to choose endpoints for this because this line is not 3. It's 2 point whatever plus the radius of that. So let's go dim. Let's pick this top endpoint and then this bottom endpoint. And the reason I do this, the reason you pick this top endpoint is because if you pick this bottom endpoint, it's actually going to run the dimension line all the way up your actual drawn edge. If you pick the top corner, it's still giving you the correct dimension, but it gives you that nice break. So there's our 3. You know what? We can even dimension these fillets. Let's do that. Radius of 1, perfect. We've got our 25, we've got our 25, we've got our 30, we have our 60. You know what this didn't give us? The overall on this side, but we already know it's 75 because that's the outer edge of the part. If you wanted to, you could put that in. END, pull that out. There's our 75. Normally you wouldn't need to do that because we have the same thing over here. Or you can just delete this one because this dimension covers the entire thing. Let's get our horizontal dimensions in here. Type dim. Let's get our 3 from here to here. Pull it straight down. I like to pull dimensions down beyond the edge of the actual part itself. END again. What are we looking for? Our 20. Pull that to there. Ooh, I lost that endpoint. Pull that straight down. That should be 20. It is. Then we need our 32. I'm going to right click, start the dim command again. Pick this endpoint. I'm going to pick this endpoint. Now this is going to have to cut through because this endpoint edge is inside the part. So this dimension line here is actually going through the part. And that's why layer color is very important, because the color controls the thickness and how the lines show. Dimensions you always want to be very, very thin. You want them jet black, bold, but very, very, very thin. I'm going to right click again. I'm going to do END again, END again, and that should be our 40. If I zoom in on that, yep, 40, perfect. Now remember, if we don't want to have those two decimal places, instead of having 20.00, we don't have to go back through and edit all these dimensions. We can just type dim style, modify our annotative, go to our primary units, change our precision to 0. Close. And if I zoom in, 20. Now, it doesn't know that this is a diameter. If I double click on this dimension text and I right click next to the 2 and I go down in the menu to symbol, here's all the different symbols. Now the symbols all have keystrokes that you can type in. This right click menu is much faster. So we want a diameter there. I'm going to double click on this 25. I'm going to right click, symbol, diameter. Right click on this one, symbol, diameter. These are not diameters, so we don't need to touch them. This 60 over here is definitely a diameter. Symbol, diameter. Oops. What happened there is I actually had the 60 selected. So if I use the arrow keys, I can deselect it and move the cursor to where I want it to be. Diameter, right click, diameter. So these inside dimensions that I had here, we didn't actually need because they're covered by this side. It's these 3 smaller ones. These ones over here automatically give us the diameter symbol because these are actual circles. So when AutoCAD dimensions a circle, it knows that it's a circle and it's going to give you a diameter symbol. So that's pretty much it for this, other than the fact that we can't read these dimensions. Now, if we were to just print this from model space, we can go down to our annotation scale and change it. Let's see if we change it to 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. That's way too big. Let me change it to 1/2 inch equals a foot. That's pretty good. That's still a little bit too big. Let's go 1 inch equals 1 foot. That's reasonable. So you don't have to worry so much about what you start with, as long as you know how to control it when the time comes to print. So even though I placed all of these dimensions off to the side, we didn't really know how big this text was going to be until we changed the annotation scale. And if you remember from the dimensioning video, you just select the dimension and you can just move it with the grips using these endpoint grips. So let's pull that one down there. Let's pull that one down there. Let's pull that one down there. Let's grab this 3. I'm going to grab the text. I'm going to click F8, and I'm actually going to move the 3 inside of its own dimension. Because one of the dimension styles that we set was to move the text off to the side if the dimension did not fit, and it didn't fit when our annotation scale was too small. So that was a lot of talking. That was a lot of commands. I'm hoping that somebody will grab some random image from the internet and try to draw it. That is the best way to learn how to use this software, as long as you've gone through some of my videos. As long as you're familiar with the commands, you can draw anything you want. And in my intro video, I even said, AutoCAD is your pencil or your pen. As long as you know what you're trying to draw, and you know how to draw, you know how to use the pencil or pen, you can draw anything you want. The difference is that your pencil has 150,000 commands attached to it. So you just need to know what you're trying to draw and what the command name is. So gang, that was pretty much it for this. I think in the next video, we are going to actually turn this into the 3D object that it is over here. Right now, this is just flat looking at the top view. We can actually take what we have here, actually this part here, and build a 3D model out of it faster than it took to draw the top and the right side. So that was season 2, episode 1. This is a random part from the internet. I didn't look at it before I started this video. Outside of downloading it, I realized that that was a mistake. If you guys held on for this long, thank you very much. And I will see you guys in the next one.